Hi, how's it going? Look, I do apologise. I've been chasing a fly around my office trying to figure out where it is, and I don't know if I've driven it out or not. So yeah, bear with me if you hear funny little buzzy noises. There's nothing I can do about it. It's summer here in New Zealand. And yeah, got to deal with the flies, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm just waiting for the ad to stop so I can actually listen to my sound and see if my video is working fine. Apparently it's an unskippable ad. Oh my, no, there it is. I can skip it. Thank God for that. I'm sure I turned everything on to skippable ads. Okay, you will find the start time for this video down in the description for those of you who are wanting to sort of skip past all of my preamble as I sort of get myself set up. I don't quite know what's going on with the sound today. I'm just going to switch over. Righto. Okay, so yes, I will put the description down in the start time down in the description. Once YouTube publishes it, you'll find that you can't access the live stream unless, of course, you already joined us and you have subscribed, hit the bell button, and turned on your notifications. How's it going, Jared? Overboard DM or Joe? Hi, Sam. Tom Miller. Yes, I received your video. I'm in the process of trying to sort it all out so we can get it out to the rest of the community. Now, I just about shat myself and had a freak out over this particular video content because this is a tricky sort of topic and sensitive for me because I've had to deal with it twice and I didn't have a great time with it. Okay, you will find, if you haven't been part of my live streams before, that I generally, what I do is I present everything first and then I open up for questions and answers. I use a lot of slides, just makes it easier for me to read from my notes so that I'm not sort of looking down all the time. It's a bit hard. I don't have a teleprompter. I'm not a professional YouTube network or anything like that with a huge studio of people. It's just me, nobody else. Now, please let me know if there's any issues with the sound. I feel like the sound is a little bit odd today. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure I've done everything I normally do. Everything seems to be in place, but I got this distinct feeling like the sound is a little bit off, and I don't know why. But if you can hear the difference, you let me know. Okay, so I'm going to get myself organized and just line up this first slide, and then we'll go across. So yes, if you're going to say anything, you've got to say it quick before I start. Oh, there it is. I'm going to pull out the plugs. I'm pretty sure everything is supposed to be the way it's supposed to be, but yes, I just feel like there's a slight difference in the sound. It's probably the humidity. Sounds loud and clear to me. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Jess. That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, we will start. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Oh, we're going to talk about Prince. That's right, the singer. Not really, actually, not the case at all. Now, this is a player's guide to the Princes of the Apocalypse for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Princes of the Apocalypse is part of the Elemental Evil storyline. For those of you who didn't know, there is an adventure called Temple of Elemental Evil, and really I feel like this is a remake, but that's really beside the point. This is a player's guide. That means essentially no spoilers for the players because it's a player's guide, but there should be some general advice related to the adventure. And yes, I will be putting a few images in here, and I suppose some of you might say, well, that, Fred, is a spoiler, and I would say to you that there are so many different things that I have left out and are unrelated in many respects, but the context is not there, so I don't feel like it's really a spoiler if you ask me. Now, as I have already mentioned about Princes of the Apocalypse, I'm not a fan of this adventure. In fact, I just about wet myself and had to go to the toilet a couple of times before doing this video. All of this advice is from my personal experience and also the two groups of players that have played through the adventure, including my home group. That's right, my home group decided to weigh in on this. In fact, a lot of this advice and what they had to say is taken from them. For those of you who are wondering if this was sort of only my perspective, actually it's coming from a lot of different people. Let's start off with the first thing. I would suggest to you is to beg your Dungeon Master to run a completely different adventure to save the other players, including yourself, and the Dungeon Master's sanity. That would be my first piece of advice to you with regard to this adventure. If you don't want to take that on board and you feel like you want to keep going, then here we go. There really are no best or better classes or races or backgrounds for this adventure. And this is simply because there are so many different types of situations in the adventure. So it doesn't really matter what sort of class you take. The only piece of advice that my players had were, well, don't forget to take a cleric. But that's not like the best class to take, it's not like that. You know, it's always a good idea to take a cleric. So not really anything dramatic there. My suggestion to you is make sure to take flexible spells with plenty of options and lots of damage types. This is going to be really useful, and I don't want to spell it out and give away everything to you, but that's essentially what I would go for. Varied damage types is really useful in this adventure. Make sure you bring yourself a colouring book, pencils, and some felt tip pens to the game table. And I know a few of you are starting to wonder if you have just joined some sort of happy hour where Fred has decided to play a whole lot of jokes on you, but I'm serious. Bring a colouring book, pencils and felt tips. If you can't bring that along, then I would suggest a smartphone is a great option, provided the Dungeon Master will allow you to use it at the table. Okay, what is the colouring book for? Well, you're going to pull out the colouring book when you get confused, when you are frustrated with the adventure or frustrated with the Dungeon Master, but really, to be fair, I feel it's more the adventure, and also when you are lost and start getting bored. These are the times when you need to pull out those colouring books and your phone, because it will make life so much easier for you and probably your Dungeon Master, provided you're not pulling out the smartphone at the inappropriate time, or even the colouring book at the inappropriate time. Trust me, you'll know the right time to do it. Keep a detailed set of notes if you have any chance of not getting very confused, frustrated, and completely lost. Now, everybody says always take detailed notes, but it's absolutely vital for this adventure. Not only if you take notes will it help you and the other players, it will help your Dungeon Master as they wade through the adventure book, getting lost themselves, because it's going to happen. Trust me, it's going to happen. I can't count the number of times that we had a player who kept really good notes and helped out the Dungeon Master actually figure out what the heck was going on, because they had taken such fantastic notes. There was just so much going on. Map out all of the locations, because they're so complex and interlinked, and it is so difficult to figure out where you're going next and where you have to go back to. So my suggestion is map everything. And if you can't map it yourself as a player, get your Dungeon Master to give you the maps, because it's going to make life so much easier. I know we couldn't have coped without some sort of map guidance. You need like a GPS for this adventure, really. I've already said it, the adventure is very confusing, and this is because there are so many factions and there are so many adventure goals. I can't count the different number of adventure goals. They vary all over the place. Some of them are related to the main story and some of them are not. So you need to make sure that you are aware that if you start feeling confused and dumb, don't feel confused and dumb, because it's just part of the adventure. Now, the adventure designers made, as far as I'm concerned, a pretty big mess of this pre-made story. So don't blame your Dungeon Master for what you feel is poor delivery of the adventure story, because there's so much that would require significant effort and fixing. And in some cases, I, as a Dungeon Master, gave up. And I will explain what happened in a second. If you want to quit playing in the campaign, that's actually not unusual. It's actually quite common. I had one group quit on me because I was DMing, but I suppose you could put it down to, oh, well, Fred, it's down to your poor DMing or dungeon mastering. That was the reason they quitted. But actually, no, it was because they were bored and they felt like every location was exactly the same. Plus, they were getting completely confused about what the heck they were supposed to be doing in this story. Hence, that was part of the problem. Now, my second group, which is my home group, this group that I played in, I wasn't dungeon mastering, I was just a player, and one of my friends decided they would have a crack at it and dungeon master. They got very frustrated and confused with the adventure, and as a result, the entire group, almost the entire group, decided, look, we want to quit due to boredom. We're just so sick and tired of this adventure and the amount of effort it's requiring our dungeon master to figure out how to piece it all together, that we just don't want to stop. We don't want to stop playing. The only reason we continued to play was because one of our players was convinced that we should continue and convinced the entire group that we should keep going and we would start our own cult called the Fire Bear Clan and induct everybody we ever met into this Fire Bear Clan and make our own cult that pretty much would take over the world. I know that sounds kind of evil and sick, but it certainly helped us continue on. A lot of the combat encounters near the end of the adventure are stupidly hard and deadly. Now, you already know my views on dungeon mastering and character death. I don't have really a big issue with that sort of stuff, but this was one of the things that was pointed out by one of our power gamers at the table, that he felt like so many of the encounters near the end of the adventure were not only incredibly deadly and extremely hard, and like the fact that we even got through or didn't get through in some cases was just a miracle. And not only that, they were dull. That was one of the key things that I pulled out from that adventure. And that wasn't the only player. We had another person who was like, I don't know how we managed to get through half of that stuff. And in fact, we didn't get through a lot of it because characters died. That's just what happened. It's a sandbox adventure. You can go anywhere you like and get into any kind of trouble you like, which means your dungeon master is going to try to figure out how to prep for each session. It's going to be really hard. So if they feel like they are trucking through their notes, flipping through pages and so forth, like I said, that's the good time to pull out that colouring book or your smartphone, because you're going to need that. And that'll help occupy you while they figure out what's going on next. Magic items are incredibly powerful in this adventure, but hugely disappointing overall. There's really two factors that make them disappointing, but I don't want to say what they are because it would actually give too much away. But that was the resounding consensus within my home group with regard to the magic items. Fair enough, this is my opinion and my home group's and one other group's opinion, so you don't have to take any of this. You can just leave it and say, Fred, it's grains of salt, I'll just put it away and do my own thing. That's fine too. It's very hard to know what the quest goal is near the beginning of the adventure. Because it's not clearly spelt out, and because you wind up with what is essentially sort of like a side quest at the very beginning of this campaign, the end result is it's not clear what's going on. In fact, it's entirely possible, unless the dungeon master sort of throws the adventure hook at you, which I suggest they probably should, you won't know what's going on, because you can walk right past that vital piece of information that gets you going. It doesn't necessarily link to anything easily too, so there's a lot of mystery, a lot of trying to figure things out, and that makes life quite difficult. I suggest that you play smart in your combat encounters. A lot of them are really easy, but there are some that are just due to the environment that you're fighting in, make them really dangerous and really difficult. So play smart when it comes to combat encounters. I've said it before, pretty generic stuff, and I would say it again, and that is teamwork, 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 teamwork. Can't say that word enough, really. If you don't use teamwork, it's time to go home and do something else. Next, make sure to create your characters together and have them have a linking relationship. That's really the only thing that's going to save this adventure, is your core group relationships and the fact that you created characters together that will actually hold you together, because this adventure is going to pull you in all sorts of directions, so you need to have a really strong group, otherwise it doesn't work. try to have fun. Last piece of advice, try to have fun, or just eat lots of junk food and tell lots of silly jokes. That would be one of my key pieces of advice. It worked well for my group, and I suggest doing the same. All I have to say now is good luck, all the best to you. Now, I know this sounds like a terrible set of player advice, but I have said it before that Princes of the Apocalypse is a steaming pile of junk for a dungeon master and a pain in the butt for players. But if you're going to play through, there is some decent advice here, even though it seems cynical in some way. Well, actually, it's definitely very cynical, because that's sort of my view. Anyway, if you found this useful, great. I have plenty of videos for dungeon masters and players. You're welcome to go and check them out. Other player guides which you might feel are a bit more useful to you compared to this one, for different pre-made adventures, and lots of dungeon master and player advice generally for Dungeons and Dragons 5e. If you want to support the channel so I keep doing this sort of stuff, then guess what? I have a Patreon page like just about everybody does. I have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon where you can buy stuff online if you do that sort of stuff. If you don't worry about it. I have a merchandise shelf underneath all of my videos that also supports the channel, or just watch my videos, that's fine too. If you have managed to stay around this long, great. Make sure to share, like and subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. I'm not gone. I don't expect this video to be hugely popular. I am quite happy, for those of you who are still here, to talk about anything other than the Princes of the Apocalypse, but I will talk about Princes of the Apocalypse as well. But if you want to talk about other stuff related to being a player or a dungeon master, mate, I would be fantastically pleased by that possibility. For those of you who are unaware, absolutely love the idea of talking about anything but Princes of the Apocalypse. Because the adventure is an apocalyptic mess, something like that. I can't know. Can I get it to come out? I don't know. Right, is my face coming up now? I don't see any face. Oh, there we go. There I am. I'm not too ugly today. Let's have a look here. I think I already said it. I'm just going to have a drink of water, guys, because I try to pull this out as fast as I could. I wrote far too many notes. I do apologize for that. 2.5 pages is way too much. As I said, we'll answer anything you would like me to answer about Princes of the Apocalypse, but I would be much more excited to answer questions unrelated to Princes of the Apocalypse. Don't care whether you're a dungeon master or a player. Okay, so I already said hi to Jared and Overboard DM. How's it going, Joe? Sam Tom Miller is here. I'm really excited about your video, Tom. I think it's going to really appeal to a lot of people. It just takes me a lot of time to sort of work my way through this sort of stuff. And the sound is good. Yes, that's cool. Not a thing. How's it going, Not a thing? Welcome to my live stream, where today I am doing something that probably shouldn't have done. Yes, I know. I just went and shite all over somebody else's adventure, but it had to be done. I feel so much better. Just need to bring some toilet paper with me as well. Okay, table, is that 1SG? 1SG. How's it going? How many players would you suggest as a minimum? I would suggest a minimum for any adventure 3. If you don't have 3 players, you've got a problem. The reason being is when one player goes down, hopefully the other 2 will be able to do something. Either one player 2 or 3 will do something while the other one's fighting. If they're fighting in the front row, that is. If your front row is quite long, then that's going to be problematic. But yeah, I would never go less than 3 with any adventure. Normally when I run adventures myself, if we drop below 3, I cancel. There are times when you can make that work, and I have talked about how to run very small groups through a Dungeons and Dragons adventure using animal companions. If you've got 2 players or 1 player. The sidekicks from the new Dungeons and Dragons Essentials kit isn't a good way of sort of dealing with that sort of thing. But that's sort of like when you're desperate and you have no other choice, right? And I know some people will be in that position. Oh, what's that overboard, DM? It said you went offline for a minute, then you came back. Well, that's fantastic. That wouldn't surprise me. YouTube's been making lots of changes. Nothing really works very well right now, even though they think that it does. And I can assure you I've noticed that myself. Yes, just because YouTube says all is good and the air is clean does not mean it is. Okay, but I'm sure they will eventually figure it out until they decide to change things again. Okay, what do you got to get here, Table? What's this? Thanks, Fred. I always wanted to DM this. I understand work needs to be done to make it seamless. Okay, Table, here's the thing. I tried running it, but the only way I could see as a dungeon master I could run it successfully is I had to build an index. Of course, Wizards of the Coast in their grand wisdom don't use indexes. Every other book in the world that's like a reference book that has a lot of complexity in it has what's called an index in the back of the book. And you go through there looking for what you want. And it gives you like a page number. You know what I'm talking about. So I built one. I made an index for Princes of the Apocalypse. And that's actually how my friend who was dungeon mastering the second time round survived. And of course our friend who was taking notes. And I do have a copy of it in the file section of the HowtoDandD Facebook group. Join the Facebook group, you can get access to it, freely available, anybody can have it. Particularly if you are going to suffer through that adventure. And what's that overboard, DM? What do you got here, Joe? If you could play a published adventure, what would you pick as a character and as a DM? Okay. I don't know necessarily as a character. Look, Joe, you know me, I'm a monk and a wizard kind of person. I like playing monks and wizards. And I've been doing a bit of multi-classing when I get the chance. Right now I'm playing around with Barbarian Druid, which is stupidly powerful and has saved the group numerous times. But it's still been fun, but I'm still very partial to playing monk and wizard. With regard to a pre-made adventure, what's my favourite one? I still think my favourite pre-made adventure is Curse of Strahd for Dungeons and Dragons 5e. If I had to say anything about another adventure from a different sort of time frame rather than 5e, then I would go back and say something like, pardon me, I liked Keep on the Borderlands for the basic game that when it first came out, essentially, kind of, yeah. Keep on the Borderlands was one of my favourites. Just because of the moral dilemma. I need to drink water again. Pardon me. If I had to pull out an adventure that I really enjoyed and felt as a dungeon master was really exciting and a little bit different, I guess Isle of Dread, or the Island of Dread, if you want to call it the Islands of Dread, but the Isle of Dread, I really enjoyed that. I felt like it was a great sandbox. It had lots of variety, and it felt very sort of, on a mysterious island, trying to tame the wilds and find your way. My players had a great time, and it was very entertaining. But it's not like it's a hugely, these adventures that I'm talking about, the older adventures, they're very short, like 30 pages if that, and the paragraphing is very short and simple and easy to follow, and it left enough there for you to figure out most of it, and you fill in the gaps. I kind of like that sort of way of writing adventures. That's just my sort of personal opinion. That's how I enjoyed the dungeon mastering. So yes, keep on the Borderlands, the Isle of Dread. There's probably a few more, but they're the ones that pop into my mind right now. Okay, what else have we got here? What's this, Sam? What do you got here? One of the classes I teach is waiting on curriculum. So I have to do different things every day to keep them occupied. Today we are playing a very watered down version of D&D Encounter. Okay, fair enough. Well, the good thing about it is that we'll get them to use their brain, right? Because they're going to do problem solving and mathematical, very simple maths. It's not complicated stuff. But if you put in puzzles, and I recommend checking out Wally DM because he does great puzzles on YouTube, then yeah, I can see it having a lot of use in a classroom setting. After defeating the monster, they turn on each other and we end class with one survivor. Oh dear. PvP. Be Saucy. Hello, Be Saucy. How's it going? What's that table? Good point with the index. I joined the Facebook group and checked that out. Thanks. You are welcome. I can't count the number of people who have been looking for that index, and it's a godsend as far as I'm concerned. But it took me a day to put together. It took me ages, and I had to hunt for stuff to find it, to put it in there. So it really made life really difficult. I tried doing that for Out of the Abyss, but after 5 days and what looked like about 5 pages of indexing, because I had to try and index the NPCs and index locations, I gave up. And I like the idea of running my adventure in the Underdark. I just didn't really enjoy the book layout myself. I feel like they're getting better and better at doing that sort of thing. As Wizards of the Coast progresses, I feel like they are sort of harkening back to the earlier Dungeons and Dragons or TSR adventures, which made sure everything was easy to find with big headings and didn't try to scatter things throughout the book in different locations. That makes it really difficult to find stuff. The whole point of a pre-made adventure is to make life easy for you and to get a good experience, right? What's that, Be Saucy? My players captured a goblin and brought it to Phandalin. How do townspeople react to goblins? Be Saucy, you already know the answer to that. They won't respond well. Some of them will probably want the goblin executed. Some will want it caged up or imprisoned. So I don't think there's going to be a very good reaction to goblins, but you already knew the answer to that one. But I'm hoping that was satisfactory. You wanted my perspective. That's my perspective. Phandalin is a very sort of ethnocentric location. It's mostly full of humans. There's a few elves and dwarves or half-elves, but not a lot. So there's not a huge variety in race there. So and goblins are renowned for causing trouble with their merchant deliveries from the bigger locations and cities travelling to Phandalin. So they'll know that the goblins trouble, and probably part of a tribe that's been waylaying resources or causing trouble on the road. Travelling back and forth from Phandalin is a dangerous prospect. Okay, I think that's a good place to stop before I lose my voice. I don't want to do that. And I'm hoping that this was slightly useful to you, or at least a warning. I consider this video more of a warning to people who would decide to play this adventure and aren't completely aware of what they're getting themselves into. Okay, so wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, the night, the early morning, make sure to look after your family, your friends, your neighbours, yourself in particular. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.